This is Mile High.
Do I want to tell the story or do I want to show the message?
You've got a lot of work to do between Mile High.
The time has come where we can know
we have a responsibility, an ethical and moral responsibility.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right,
it is not. It is a receiver of thought.
because love is my first technique.
it's now time for the show.
Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Super thrilled to have you listening, watching, wherever you're tuned in. I will say, please make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tip, whether this is on Spotify or YouTube or iTunes. And also make sure you mark your calendar. In fact, just mark your calendar, just reserve to be there at Mile High 14, August 20th to 23rd. You can get all the details at riseuptomilehigh.com. You know you want to be there at altitude with us for Mile High 14. And our guest today will be there. He was at the first Mile High, so I'm thrilled to have him there. He's one of my favorite, really truly one of my favorite people in chiropractic, made such a difference in our lives. He ran a successful high retention wellness practice in his community for nearly 2 decades. He retired from practice, dedicated himself fully to helping chiropractors grow their practices as the founder and CEO of Cash Practice Systems. I met Dr. Miles Bodzin when he first was starting that out, and the things he taught me and I learned were crucial to my life, and he brings his years of experience and knowledge to thousands of chiropractors through speaking, writing, and systems that help them do that. Thank you for being here, Dr. Miles Bodzin.
Thanks, Dr. Danny. I really appreciate you having me on, and it's always a thrill to share with like-minded chiropractors.
Totally, completely. And it's so exciting to have you on stage at Mile High. Let's focus on you and focus on helping, serving the people that are watching, the students, doctors, and teams that watch and listen, to help them have more retention and grow their practice. And let's help them get to know you first. Where did your heart and soul and spirit get dialed into chiropractic?
Well, I love when I get asked this question about, tell me about yourself and tell me your journey getting the chiropractic. And, I was called to be a chiropractor like Danny. I'm sure you were as well. You're called to serve as a chiropractor. And, we have this sense of like we want to help society and help people and give. And I also will say that I think as chiropractors, we're a unique breed of people. We're all mavericks. We tend to be, we go against the grain. We don't follow the rules generally. And that's always been me. Really where it came about for me was I was actually a little lost in my early 20s. I was studying to be an engineer actually at the time. And I was in my senior year of engineering in school where I woke up one day and realized this isn't for me. And here I am, a senior ready to graduate in less than a year. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And it was nerve wracking, quite frankly. And you can imagine a young kid kind of coming to that epiphany and what do you do at that point? So I lived in Southern California at the time and I surfed a lot. And so I went down to the beach and cleared my head in the ocean. And after I got out of the ocean, I sat down on the beach with a pad of paper and just started writing in a journal about what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I didn't suddenly say I'm going to become a chiropractor, but I got real clear on what was important to me versus what wasn't important to me. Things such as I wanted to help people and work with people. I didn't want to be sitting in a cubicle. I didn't want to be sitting behind a computer at the time. And this is like in the early 90s, you got to remember, late 80s, early 90s. And I also happened to be visiting chiropractors at the time. I'd been going to a chiropractor since I was 12. I'd injured my neck in a diving accident or diving into a pool as a kid. And I had been using chiropractic intermittently for pain relief primarily, as a young kid. And I happened to visit my chiropractor after I had this experience of writing in my journal. And it dawned on me that I was watching the doctor take care of people. And I realized, well, I think he's living the life I just described in my journal. And it got me piqued. It piqued my interest, And I didn't know much about chiropractic other than just, you went in and it made you feel better. So I went back to my college library and I got a book on healthcare. And in there, I read a section on chiropractic where it talked about the chiropractor's job was to identify and find these areas of nerve interference and remove that nerve interference and the body would work better. And that really resonated with me because I had been studying electrical engineering and the whole notion of the electrical system of the body, controlling and coordinating everything and interference, caused the problem and that removing that interference allowed the body to work better. The message just clicked for me. And as soon as I read that message, it was almost like immediate where I said, I think I'm going to become a chiropractor, and put things in motion. And that's really what kind of set it in motion. Was I had experience with it. I was kind of lost, looking for something new, and the message spoke to me. The message and the story of chiropractic really spoke to my heart. And I said, okay, this is the path I'm on. This is where I'm going. Kind of funny that today I've gone full circle and gone back to the engineering world and providing software and systems and engineering type stuff for chiropractors. But nonetheless, that's what drew me into the profession.
So let me ask you this. So then was it like completely effortless, like you just opened and it was really easy and no problems in starting a business?
Yeah, sure, whatever you say. No, I will say this. I will say this. I do have a business background. When I say a business background, like a lot of people from my generation or our generation, I was the kid pushing a lawnmower around the neighborhood as a teenager, mowing lawns and, earning a buck here and there. Like this entrepreneurial spirit was in me from a very young age. So you combine that entrepreneurial spirit with a disability that engineers have, and that disability is we think we know everything and we can solve all problems ourselves. That's a real disability we have. So I got into practice. I purchased the practice thinking I knew everything I needed to know as a young kid. Here I'm 26, 27 years old, and I thought I knew everything I needed to do to run a practice. I had some business background, and I ran full speed into a brick wall, basically. I really struggled my first couple of years in practice. But through those struggles, like a lot of us, you learn and grow. And I didn't let those struggles stop me. And I had a good support system with family and friends. And I pushed through that. And I eventually learned what it took to go from that struggle to just put it in perspective. I remember the day I picked up the phone to call my mom and dad a year or two into practice, ready to give up on practice, saying, we need help. I literally have no money to pay for my personal life. I'm married. I have a child. We have money to pay the practice, but not myself. And I humbled myself, called mom and dad and said, can we move in with you guys and live with you guys? And we did. And it was when that window of time, I got a little breathing room and I reached out and got some help from some colleagues who were doing well. And they set me in a direction that really helped. And it took me from that struggle to eventually having extraordinary success in practice, buying our home and, all the things that come along with having success. But no, I did not have success right out of the gate. There were some struggles at the beginning, but those I grew from them. One thing as in kind of an engineering, if you know engineers, we kind of try to problem solve a lot. And I really, really dug into what are the core issues we're dealing with, and discovered a number of things that to this day we still teach that took us from that struggle to just to put it in perspective. When I retired from practice in 2011. I know you mentioned the word retention. Just to put it in perspective, our PVA in practice was just over 300 visits, where docs, we know the national average is about 12 to 16 visits is what typically chiropractors see a patient. So I really figured out what it took to retain people and to really deliver on the promise of chiropractic through long-term lifetime chiropractic care.
And this is all very important. I think people are graduating more confused around the business of chiropractic and the philosophy, science, art of practice, and than they ever have. That's my personal opinion and or observation. And so, did you just a little bit more of your journey? Did you originally want to have a cash practice? Were you focused on a wellness, type of care at that point, or is that something that developed?
So that's a great question. The answer is, when I bought my practice, the first thing I did is I changed the name of it. I went down to the city and registered a name. And at the time, the word wellness did not exist in business. It just didn't. This was in 1993, 1994. Okay. So I went down to the city and searched the word wellness, and it came up nowhere. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I named my practice the Chiropractic Wellness Center, which is a pretty common name you see today. But back then, it wasn't. We were the very first business in all of San Diego County to have the word wellness in our name. So with that being said, the answer is yes. I wanted wellness right from the beginning. Did I know how to deliver on that? I didn't. I just was doing what I was taught, which is to tell the story and teach the message of chiropractic. And I was taught the notion that if people knew what I knew, they would do what I do, and just give the workshops and all of the stuff I was taught to do. So yes, the wellness and that style of practice is what I wanted to do right from the beginning. Again, what drew me to chiropractic to begin with was the message of chiropractic. It wasn't that I had a back injury or a neck, and it was the story of the subluxation being removed, that the body works better. That's what really drew me into the profession. And Yeah, so from day one, that's what I wanted to do for sure. But the challenge, I'll share one of the challenges we ran into big time is, let me paint a picture. And again, not to date myself here, but as a young guy getting started in practice at that time period, there was this brand new thing out in the world called managed care, right? So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
managed care was this new thing, and I was not part of it. I tried to get into it but they weren't letting new doctors in. It was the old boys club
Right.
basically.
Right.
So I couldn't get in it. And meanwhile, all the patients that came into me, they were part of these managed care programs. So you asked, did I want to be cash from the beginning? I didn't really, that's not the direction I wanted to go, but I ended up going that way because I had no choice. I was literally put into a corner where like, I can't, nobody has insurance that will work with me. And if I want to do long-term lifetime care, I got to figure out how to do this cash thing.
Right.
With that being said, I will also say I was never 100% cash. We always ran around 80 to 90% cash. So there was some insurance and there was some little bit of PI and that kind of stuff that typically goes on, Medicare, that kind of stuff. But we were primarily a cash-based practice.
And what are some of the problems maybe you overcame, but you've seen chiropractors in general have to overcome in a cash wellness oriented practice to this day?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot. There's a lot of things. I'll just start with this. You mentioned that doctors coming out lost, not really knowing where they're at. I'll say that's top of the list because at the end of the day, if you're going to run a cash-based practice, if you want to have any reality of retention with patients and build a practice, a wellness type of, you have to be so clear on what you deliver for people.
Right.
If you're not clear on what you deliver, what your product is, what your outcome you're trying to accomplish with people, if you're not clear on that, there is no way in the world you're going to have retention because at the end of the day, patients will just default to you're there for pain relief. That's where their default mindset is at. So you doctors themselves have to have the right headspace. It starts there. On top of that, you got to have the right business model in place. And the business model, I will tell you, is probably the most important thing. Well, not the most. It's one of the most, if not the most important. Let me rank it this way. If you were to rank the things we do, like, your headspace, your patient education, your business model, your technique, all these things, second to headspace is your business model when it comes to retention. It has more importance than your technique. It has more importance than how well you are at patient education. We have seen over and over and over, doctors could have the right patient education, they could have the right technique, they could have the right headspace, but the retention sucks because their business model is wrong.
Right.
But we've also seen doctors who have average technique, their headspace is in the right place, maybe not the best patient education, but their business model is right and they're kicking ass. My point being is that business model is crucial and most doctors have it wrong. They have it wrong. And that has to be fixed.
Well, no, I agree with you. And when you were first launching cash practice in one of its earliest forms, I was learning what you just said because I think people, and this is part of what I teach and why I put Mile High, is people have to bring those things in alignment and coherence. They could be having, the mindset of philosophical wellness care. Their technique cannot match up with that in terms of how they're choosing where to adjust, doing it based on some ortho neuro test. And then their business model does not match up to it. And those things have to get coherent, aligned if you're going to have, at least in my view, a prosperous, abundant, cash-based business, and that you're attracting people. And so many people have 5 different, rhythms going on in their office that don't bring that together. And the business model can just trash that. And they are talking a wellness thing or have all the philosophy nut ducks in a row, but then they're doing something that's the antithesis of that, or their care plans or their finances or how they're collecting money. And then they feel like they're hitting their head against the wall and they never go anywhere.
Absolutely. It's sort of like, I'll use the analogy. It's like when you have a resonance where, everything's in sync and it amplifies each other, right? If you go ahead and have your business model right and your technique right and your patient education right and all of that stuff right, they feed off each other and it just explodes. It does well, right? Resonate, it becomes automatic, right? Like waves in an ocean. Right. When they're out of sync, you just got a choppy sea, right? It doesn't work.
Exactly. Right. I talk about it as coherence. There has to be a coherent system from your staff to communication to your what plans you're recommending, which is again why I love cash practice. And you won't get to retention if you don't have what you said, a choppy sea. You don't do it well. It'll be real effort.
Yeah, and you bring up, like you just mentioned care plans for a second there, and I'll just share this is that one thing I've observed, and Dana, I'm going to guess you're going to agree with this, and that is I've seen lots and lots of doctors do really well with new patients, enrolling people, and doing that whole startup process really well. And they're really good at that, but they don't necessarily they could have good retention, but they don't necessarily automatically have good retention.
Hmm.
But I've
Yeah.
never seen a practice that has good retention not have a good day one, day two. Like it's
Oh, that's
crucial,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
You could have a good day one, day two and not have good retention, but you cannot have good retention without a good day one, day two. And the
Right.
process that you enroll people and the business model you use to sign them up for care and all of that stuff has to be dialed in correctly. And when you do, then you at least have the potential to have good retention.
Yeah, no, you're really right on. I agree 100%. So, what are some of the most common problems chiropractors have with retention?
Okay, so I've nailed it down to four key areas. Let me just say it this
Okay.
way. When it comes to retention, there's four critical things that must be done. And I want to emphasize this because if you go onto like a Facebook group, as an example, I use this analogy all the time. You go into a Facebook group and some doctor asks, "Hey, I'm struggling with retention. What do you guys recommend?" 99% of what's being said by the other members of that Facebook group is usually around the world of you got to educate them more. You tell me about your workshops, that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to share, I'm a big fan of patient education. Please don't interpret this as I'm not suggesting you educate patients. But I will tell you that when it comes to retention, education in of itself does not drive retention. No different than Danny, I'm sure every listener on here right now knows someone that person has all the knowledge in the world they need to know they need to change their eating behavior or their exercise behavior, or they know they need to quit smoking. They have the knowledge and they've been educated on it, yet it doesn't change their behavior. And my point being is that knowledge in of itself doesn't drive people to do things.
Hmm.
It's a part of it, but it's not what does it. Not alone. So I emphasize that because chiropractors, I want you to take your blinders off and stop banging your head on a wall. These are the four things you need to do when it comes to retention. Number one is you gotta forecast their care. You must, like we just said, care planning. You have to, from day one, start off by doing a good day one, day two process and enrolling that patient into a care plan. I will say when it comes to retention, if your care plans are less than about 5 or 6 months, you're going to have a really hard time converting those people to lifetime wellness care. That's been our observation. I'm not saying every patient needs, you need to put them on a 6 month plan if they only need 1 month, in your opinion. I'm just simply saying from an observational standpoint, the odds of that patient going on to a doctor directed wellness maintenance program, the odds of that happening become less and less and less the shorter the initial program. So you need to put them on. We've seen around 6 months as the minimum window, 5 months maybe if you want to push it. That gives people enough time to do two things. It makes it part of their time schedule, so it becomes part of their lifestyle time-wise. It also gives them an opportunity to make it part of their financial habits, where
Hmm.
you're building into their family budget this amount of money they're spending every month. Those two things must occur long enough for you to expect them to go on to a wellness program.
Hmm.
So that's number one. You got to do that care planning. Number two is the financial model. The financial model, many chiropractors make the mistake of doing like, oh, pay per visit or pay me in the first couple months. Like they want to get all the money as soon as possible. And that is a big mistake. In fact, I'll emphasize it this way. When I consult with doctors who've been doing lots of prepay models, that's what they've been doing. And I did it myself at one point. If you do that, the doctors always confide in me, or most of them confide in me, that their re-sign rate is terrible. That they're good at signing people up, but as far as them renewing for wellness and maintenance, they don't see a real good success rate of that. They see a big drop off. The business model that works best, Danny, as we've talked about for years, is put that patient on a monthly payment or have them make a down payment with a smaller monthly payment, but have it be a monthly amount for the care plan. So if the care plan was $3,000 or $4,000, you're going to spread that over, let's say it's 6 months of care, you're going to spread it over 6 months, those monthly payments. What that does is, one is it makes it easier for the patient, but number two is it's creating a habit, not in a negative sense. It's creating a behavior of your patients used to making you a monthly payment, and it's creating a budgetary amount in their family budget where they know they're spending this amount of money in your practice. And here's really where the rubber meets the road with that monthly payment amount, and that is if my patient is ready to go to maintenance or wellness care, and I'm at that point in time. I've treated them for 6 months, or I've cared for them for the last 6 months. I get to say, great news, you're ready for wellness care. Your scans have improved, your x-rays, all your objective findings have improved. You've qualified for wellness care. Your spine is ready to move into that stage. Good news is your payment's going from 400 down to 200. And people accept that knowledge that not only is their clinical their clinical findings improved, but their financial situation is going to get easier too. That subtle change of taking someone from a higher monthly payment to a lower one makes it really easy for them to accept it and move on to the wellness program. So care planning is number one. Number two is you must put that patient or give them the option to be on a monthly payment. And the other part of that is you want to automate that payment. One thing we always teach is we've identified the more often your patients are thinking about money. That means every time they reach in their wallet, their pocket to pull out their wallet, or their purse to pull out their wallet, or every time you send them a bill in the mail, every time they're reminded of the money, you're sabotaging retention.
They have to make an additional buying decision.
Exactly, and you're sabotaging your retention. So that's the second thing. It's kind of monthly payments are automated. The third thing that comes to retention is you must give your patients feedback on how they're doing with their care. People need to know where they stand. They need to know objectively how are things changing over time. And if you're not doing that well, patients will by default use their symptoms as a measure of how they're doing. So doctors, we must give them feedback. And I know most doctors are good at this. Here's how your posture is improving, and here's how your scans are improving, and here's how your x-rays are improving. I'll just add one layer to that is when you give that feedback, you want to do it where it's easily understood by patients. And this is where we developed our wellness score, which is basically a tool to take all your exam findings and convert it into a letter grade or convert it into a report card, so that I'm able to say to my patient, hey, you were a D, now you're a C, now you're a B, now you're an A. And that reinforces to the patient they're making progress.
Right.
Humans have a psychological need to know we're making progress towards a goal in order to stay motivated in following that plan. And if there isn't a way to report that back that patients understand, they will lose motivation. So that's the feedback portion of it. And the fourth is the patient education. Make sure you're frequently marketing and educating your patients. And those are the four things for retention. As long as you give your patients a plan of care, as long as you give them monthly payments that are automated, as long as you give them feedback, and as long as you educate them in that order, you will have great retention. That's what it comes down to. And most chiropractors are doing one or two of the four, not all four of them. And that's what it comes down to.
I have to say something around all that, because I share with people frequently, both on this podcast and my lifetime wellness practice program, the same thing. We grow up at the same time in chiropractic, and you help me a lot with this. And I think where people get confused in their chiropractic education, is all the things you just said point the practice member to the direction that care is a process,
yes,
as compared to an event. And absolutely. I think the foundation under when people don't align those things, they reinforce to the patient, and it can be in the person's adjusting style and their communication as well, that this is an event we're doing with you, and you don't come back to you need the same event. Versus like the scorecard system is that there's a process of a person's spine and nerve system increasing its integrity, getting healthier, and that has to be in the essence of the education and the business model. The business model reinforces this is an event, you get 5 events, as compared to there's a process of my body healing. Then it doesn't bring the coherence of that message. And I think people don't even learn that in chiropractic school anymore. So it makes harder to start out and get a direction of creating a business of a lifetime wellness model. And that's going to lead people to the real gift in chiropractic. To me, the real gift is how the person's body changes when they've had care consistently, whether it be 6 months, a year, 2 years, like how a person's body changes over time. And then the person that loses is the patient, because they don't get the larger gift of what, as a profession, we could give people, because we don't have that in such a way that they even get introduced to it in a clear way.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better, that it is a process, not an event. I use the analogies like doctors will fly across the country and they'll go to seminars to learn the best techniques in the world because they want to get great clinical outcomes. And rightfully so. That's why we became chiropractors, to get great clinical outcomes. But at the end of the day, one of the biggest reasons patients don't get the best clinical outcomes is not because you don't have lightning bolts flying out of your fingertips. That's not the reason. The reason is because the patient fails to listen to you and follow through.
Right.
It's not that you'll spend all this time, energy, and money to learn how to be the best chiropractor, when in fact the thing that influences the patient's outcomes the most is them showing up. Right. And so you should be doing everything in your power to make sure you're helping that patient follow through and show up and follow the process. And what you just said about treating it as an event versus a process, it is a root cause, absolutely a root cause.
It's the underlying thinking, and I see it all the time. Teaching network and having to have the person go from what they learned in school of an event, and it's other analysis approaches too. But I see it all the time with new grads, and they just can't even wrap their brain around because they didn't learn it in chiropractic school, which is sad. It's a fault of the profession.
It's sort of like, imagine going to an orthodontist where the treatment plan is an event where, we're gonna put braces on today, and that's the event, right? What do you mean you're not going to come back every month to get tightening? Like, there's a whole process you're going through to achieve an outcome of straight teeth.
Right.
It's an easy analogy to apply to chiropractic. Like the goal of care, there's some outcome. It's not straight teeth, but it's some improvement in your spine that's in your practice. What is the process to achieve that goal versus, we're just going to have you show up for that one visit and then figure it out from there.
And you have to anchor people to there's an outcome we're moving towards, and like a personal trainer or something like that, right?
Exactly.
So now, what is you feel? And this is a great conversation. I hope people listen to this over and over again, because it's a fundamental area to be successful in chiropractic, regardless of your analysis approach. But if you want people to get the biggest gift that you can give for chiropractic, that was actually the frustration of me before I used cash practice. I have to tell you, was people would come for care, stop, for 2 weeks, and then come back. And it would frustrate me because I knew I could give them more.
Me too. It frustrated me too.
Yeah. I knew they could get more. I could give them more, and they weren't getting the bigger thing that I could give them. And it was very painful, and so shifting some of these things. So what do you think is the main difference between a pay-per-visit practice and a recurring revenue practice?
Oh, there's lots of differences. The pay-per-visit practice is very stressful for the front desk and the doctor. It's very whereas the recurring payment model is not. The pay-per-visit practice is usually going to be a symptom-based, insurance-based practice, where the recurring revenue model is generally going to be a more cash-based wellness corrective care model. If you just want to look at strict business numbers, the practice that, let's say everything's the same, they're both doing $50,000 a month in revenue, and one of them is a pay-per-visit model, one of them is a recurring revenue model. When that doctor goes to exit one day and sell that practice, that pay-per-visit model is worth X, whereas the recurring revenue model is worth 4 or 5X. It's just massively different, both from the standpoint of business valuation, outcomes approach, the type of patients you're attracting, the type of patients you're taking care of, the joy you have in practice. And I think for me personally, it's the freedom that comes along with it. Meaning, when you have a recurring revenue model, you got to understand that you're earning that revenue whether you get a new patient that week or that month at all, right? It doesn't matter. Let me use a real life story with this. COVID, March of 2020, April of 2020. Now, my company, Cash Practice, we have thousands of clients, so we get to see a broad scope of the profession of how much money is being processed every day. We have that data, right? And we could see data along one-time payments versus recurring revenue. So one-time payments are going to be that pay-per-visit and that type of stuff. During COVID, a stressful time for everybody, one-time payments almost immediately dropped by 50%. So if doctor, your practice is running on one-time payments, your income dropped 50% during that stressful period of time. Recurring revenue payments dropped by less than 2.5%. Why is that? Because their revenue wasn't dependent upon people showing up, and it wasn't dependent upon new people showing up. And one of the beauties of that is that it gives you freedom to not be stressed about life. And the other thing it does is, imagine, doctor, you listening to this right now, imagine in your practice, you could look 12, 24 months into the future, from right now into the future, and you see on your books, on your calendar, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month scheduled automatically coming in every month for the next year to 2 years. How does that feel to know you don't have to worry about your overhead and paying your payroll and what your marketing budget is. You have the revenue already on the books because it's scheduled to occur. That's a very different lifestyle for you, the doctor, versus that doctor who has to always be marketing to get new people to replace the people they're losing. It's a very different lifestyle. It's a very different lifestyle.
I have to tell you, one of my favorite things every day
Is
is
an email.
that I get an email with this is how much has come in today, before we even open the doors. I love that, I unfortunately see the declines too, but but I see, oh, well, I just woke up, I'm on exercising, and $3,000 came in before I went into work. And we use that tool every month. We look how many, recurring, like, oh, this month the recurring revenue is 60,000 before we even, the month started. Like,
Yep.
we know that, like, when the month starts, and we
And how
also
does that
know
feel? I mean,
it
you're
feels
speaking.
great. It feels
Yeah,
great,
it feels
and
great.
it's been a key part of also our marketing. Say, oh wow, the recurring revenue this particular month is lower than the other months. What are we going to do to increase that and target our business or classes or marketing ads, whatever? Because, oh, I don't know, October is lower than a different month, so we have to plan for that. It's great. So now I would be remiss to not, start winding this down with the how do people learn more or get started with cash practice?
That's a great question. So if you want to learn more, if our conversation enticed you, you say, "Huh, I'm interested. I'm struggling in these areas. I want to improve my retention, maybe my retention is good. I just want better systems. That our systems are terrible." The best thing to do is just reach out to cashpractice.com. Just reach out to the website. You can do your own research. I know a lot of people like to look at their own stuff. So visit the website cashpractice.com. There's a phone number there. There's a place you can book a call. I'm going to do something I don't typically do. I'm going to give you my personal work email address. So if you want to just reach out to me directly, I'm happy to answer your questions. It's Dr. Bodzin, like DR, as like doctor, Bodzin, Bodzin, at cashpractice.com. So Dr. Bodzin at cashpractice.com. Feel free to email me directly. I'm happy to answer your questions. Yeah, that's the
Well,
best way. Yeah, there you
and I'll
go.
make sure that email is within the email that goes out in the liner notes so people can reach out to you. And I have to tell you, truly, people that listen, any time spent talking with Miles or exchanging information with Miles is going to be time well spent. He has helped me a lot. I know a lot of the things that I do in chiropractic I would not have gone into if the things that I shifted with his cueing did not happen. I had a lot of people that helped me support and learn from, but Dr. Miles was one of them. And if you are attending Mile High, and you should be attending Mile High, okay,
Absolutely.
August 20th to 23rd, go up to their booth, ask him questions. I spent many a time at programs that I attended talking to him to wrap my head around different things to shift in my practice from where I was to time. And that time, I was in a big growth model and growth process or growth crucible of shifting things around from where I was. And the things in cash practice were a crucial impetus or spark to that. So I cannot emphasize enough, when you're at Mile High, talk to them.
Thank you.
So I recommend that highly. So thank you for taking the time to be at Mile High,
Yeah, you're
and you
welcome.
guys should take them up on just chatting with them and also emailing them. So and I think what you've created is vital, and also this movie about
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Before we mention the movie, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you so much. I just want to mention, as I'm listening to us talk right now, somebody listening to my now right now might think I'm a coach. We're talking, I'm giving a lot of advice, and I gave my email, and you talk about how I helped you. And I would let me make it clear, Cash Practice, we're not a coaching company, we're a software company.
Right.
When you utilize us or you come to us, we give you the software to do the four things I mentioned of care planning and payment processing and feedback and patient education. We have tools to assist you in those four things. That being said, we do give you some. We of course give you assistance in applying these things, and I'm always here to help and provide some education on. Now you brought up a movie. You started off by asking me, tell me about yourself. You started that, and so we decided to do a movie around that subject. Like people ask, well, tell me about yourself. Well, go watch the movie, and we have a whole story about it. We decided to do a story on what it's like to become confused as a young. The characters are me, Holly, who works for me, Patience, of course, And it follows me going through my journey of deciding I was lost and I wanted to become a and I found the calling of chiropractic. And it's the story of becoming a chiropractor. It's the story of struggling in practice and then finding success. I think if you take the time to watch it, you'll relate. Most chiropractors I talk to, most CAs come back saying they really related to it. They found a lot of inspiration in the story. I'll share the URL if you want to watch it and stream it for free. You just go to
do so, because I'm going to make it a team meeting that we do.
Go to thecallingmovie.com, thecallingmovie.com. You could also just go to cashpractice.com, and under the About tab, you're going to see a menu item that says Our Story. You can just click on that too. It takes you to the same page. But you can stream it right there. And yeah, do it as a team meeting. I think your team will find it very enjoyable. In fact, we've had some doctors tell us they just let it stream in their reception room, and patients have watched it too, because it does. There's messaging in there about lifetime care. There's messaging in there about bringing your kids in. There's messaging in there that we wove in about wellness. It's not just about me becoming a chiropractor or that story. We weaved in there a message that patients would resonate with too. So.
Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it a team meeting there. So
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm curious to hear what you have to think.
Well, a good thing to watch before Mile High. So again, thank you for just helping doctors with the systems you've created. Thank you for being a gift to the chiropractic profession, and thank you for being at Mile High 14 in August.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it. You guys, if you're not registered, make sure you do register.
Absolutely. Keep changing spines, lives, and minds with chiropractic. We'll see you all on higher ground, August 20th to 23rd. RiseUpToMileHigh.com is where you can get all the details.